They combine ibadah and isti'anah. They combine the two things together. The second group are those وَيُقَابِلُ هَؤُلَاءِ الْقِسْمِ الثَّانِي وَهُمُ الْمُعْرِضُونَ عَنْ عِبَادَتِهِ وَالْإِسْتِعَانَةِ بِهِ. The second group are the ones who basically are the opposite. And these are the people who turn away from Allah's worship and they turn away from His isti'anah. There's no worship and nor do they seek aid from Allah. فَلَا عِبَادَ وَلَا isti'anah. But if one of these people from this category was to ask Allah, he's asking not because of ibadah, but it is because of some hadh or shahwa. Right? It is because of some desire or need or something that he has. It is not for the sake of seeking the pleasure of Allah and nor establishing His rights. And we find that you see that everyone in the heavens and the earth, they ask from Allah. You see the awliya of Allah, the friends of Allah, they ask Him. But the enemies of Allah, they ask Him as well. And Allah gives to these and Allah gives to them. And the most hated of people to Allah, which is Iblis, la'nahullah, even he made isti'anah to Allah. He asked from Allah because when he had a need, Allah gave that to him. قال ربي فأنذرني إلى يوم يبعثون. This is Iblis. He's calling upon Allah. Oh Allah, grant me respite till the day that they are raised. قال فإنك من المنذرين. So Allah gave him that respite. Right? So this means that even an enemy of Allah like Iblis, he acknowledges Allah is the Lord. He acknowledges that without Allah's aid and assistance that he can do nothing. So he asked Allah for that, and Allah gave it to him for a wisdom, for a purpose. And so, but this type of person, when he seeks this from Allah, it is not, that he wants to seek Allah's pleasure. And when he's given that thing by Allah, this only increases that person in his wretchedness and his remoteness from Allah the Exalted and from being expelled and repelled from Allah. And this is the case for every person who asked from Allah, but he did so not in order to obey Him. This person will be made distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, what's the lesson from this? Right? Meaning that if Allah Azza wa Jal, He makes no distinction, He gives to this and He gives to that. Right? He gives to the one who is His enemy. He gives the one who is His ally and friend. And even Iblis, he made isti'anah, he made dua to Allah. Allah gave to him. What is the lesson that we take from this? The lesson that we take from this, as Ibn al-Qayyim says next, is that the intelligent person, when he reflects upon himself and other people, when he observes other people, and he knows or he learns that if Allah responds to somebody, لَيْسَتْ لِكَرَامَةِ كُلِّ سَائِلٍ عَلَيْهِ. Right? That if Allah responds to somebody, it is not because that person has any virtue or nobility. And because such a person, Allah might respond to him, and that thing will lead him to his destruction. It will lead him to perish. And Allah gave to him because that person is lowly, and he's nothing in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And He did so in order to prevent him from achieving nobility. Right? But then on the other side, there might be someone who Allah prevents. Allah does not answer that person. And He doesn't answer him in order to protect him. It is not out of miserliness, out of bukhl, but it is out of protection for that person. And He did it because He wants that servant to be noble, to remain noble. And because of love for him, and because He wants to behave graciously towards him, right? So the point being that Allah answering and giving Allah not answering and withholding, this has no connection to the honor of a servant and the disgrace of a servant. There's no connection between these two. Otherwise, if that was the case, then Allah would never give to any of the people of disbelief. And He would always give to the people of Iman. But when we reflect and we see around us, we see this is not the case. We see mostly the opposite. So this means that Allah giving and Allah withholding, Allah answering, Allah not answering, this has no connection to the honor and dignity of a person and the humility and the humiliation and the disgrace of a person. So now what can happen is a servant who doesn't truly understand this point, he might wrongly think that from his jahl, from his ignorance, that Allah does not love him, Allah does not honor him, Allah does not, fulfill his needs, and he then has an evil opinion with respect to his Lord. This is only because of the jahl and what's in his heart. He doesn't understand and recognize these types of things. So after making that point, then Ibn al-Qayyim moves to the next point, which is that if this is so, if this is the case, then a servant has to be extremely careful not to ask Allah about something who he doesn't know it's whether it's good and what its outcome is going to be. Do you understand, right? So the point being that if it is established that Allah giving, Allah not giving, Allah answering, not answering, this has no connection to the servant having karama and having nobility and status, or to a servant being humiliated. If there's no connection between this and this, then this means that a servant, that when he asks for things, he must be sure that he's asking for something that he knows the goodness of and that he knows the outcome of. Otherwise, he shouldn't, he should be aware of that. And what this indicates in turn is that if he is going to ask for anything, therefore he asks it conditionally. Oh Allah, if you know this to be good for me, then grant it to me. Oh Allah, if you know this to be harmful for me, then keep me away from it. Which is what? It is the istikhara, salatul istikhara. So this now shows, when we follow through in this manner, we and so Ibn al-Qayyim mentions next, that if he's going to ask for anything specific, then he must ask it by way of, or he should do it by way of istikhara. And he should make the istikhara as a person, truly as a person who himself does not know what is in his beneficial interest, who he himself acknowledges he has no power over it, who himself acknowledges that he's not able to be guided towards the details of that thing, and he has no power of benefit or harm over himself. So when he makes the istikhara, and this is exactly what the wording of the istikhara, what we find in the wording of the istikhara, that Allah, you know, I do not know, you have the power, I do not have the power, if you know that such and such is good for me in this life and the hereafter, and so on and so forth. So this is the wording that is found in the istikhara, which indicates that only Allah knows best what is best for the servant, and He decrees everything. And so we turn to Allah when we seek assistance from Allah, then we make istikhara to Allah. Now, following on from this, so this is when we are asking for things, when we are asking Allah for assistance and things like that. But what about if Allah brings something to you and you didn't ask for it? Because not everything that comes to you is something that you actually asked for. Allah brings things to His servants, but they didn't ask for them. So He goes on to say, if Allah gives you something, bila su'al, without any, without you having to ask for it, then ask Him, فَاسْأَلْهُ أَن يَجْعَلَهُ عَوْنًا لَكَ عَلَى طَاعَتِهِ. Then you ask Him to make it to be of assistance to you in pleasing Allah and obeying Allah and reaching His pleasure. And it shouldn't be something that cuts you off from Allah. So if Allah gives you, opens up means for you, grants you certain strengths, grants you certain things that come to you, then you ask Allah, oh Allah, make this possession, make this property, make this vehicle, make this wife, make this child, whatever Allah brings to you without you having made dua to Allah. Then you ask Allah that He makes it to be of benefit to you in attaining His pleasure. And وَلَا تَظُنْ أَنَّ عَطَاءَهُ كُلَّمَا أَعْطَى لِكَرَامَةِ عَبْدِهِ عَلَيْهِ ولا منه كل ما يمنعه لهوان عبده عليه ولكن عطاؤه ومنعه ابتلاء وامتحان. So in other words, we're coming really to the crux of the matter now, that everything that Allah brings to you, whether you asked for it or not, or whether it came to you without asking Allah for aid and assistance, and whatever Allah prevented from you, this has no connection to the karama, to nobility, nor to humiliation and lowliness. It has no connection. Rather, the only connection it has is to the fact that you are being tried and tested by way of it. All right? So this is what the crux of the matter is coming to. And that's why he brings very, in exactly the proper place. We come to the ayat, the two ayat in Surah Al-Fajr. فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانِ إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن. As for man, when Allah tests him, when his Lord tests him, and He honors him and He gives him from His bounties, he says, indeed my Lord has honored me. My Lord has honored me. وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانًا. And then when He tests him, when his Lord tests him, when He tests him, and He restricts the provision upon him, he says, now my Lord has humiliated me. So, what is the meaning here? The meaning here, Ibn al-Qayyim says, that it is not the case that everyone to whom I gave to, and the one whom I gave a favor to, and the one that I have necessarily honored him. And it is not because, he has some sort of honor and position with me. Rather, it is because of a trial from me, an imtihan, a test and a trial. Will he be grateful to me or not? If he's grateful, I may give him extra, I may give him increase. Or will he be ungrateful to me, so then I take it away from him. So I give him the bounties, the favors, and this is not to honor him, but it is to test him. If he's grateful, I'll give him more. If he's ungrateful, I'll take it away from him. And, and likewise, it is not the case that everyone I put to trial, I restrict his provision and I restrain it, and not because it's not because he is little and disgrace towards me, but it is again ibtila and imtihan. It is to test that individual. Will he be patient? Yasbir. So I give him multiple times more of what he lost from his rizq when I withheld from him. Or is he going to become angry? Is he going to become angry? So in this case, what will he receive except anger? So in other words, now, Allah answering, Allah not answering, Allah giving, Allah not giving, all of this has got no connection to this person being a wali of Allah, having nobility, and nor has it got anything to do with this being an enemy of Allah and disgraced and humiliated and lowered. No, the only connection here in Allah giving and withholding is al-ibtila wal-imtihan. So those who are grateful to Allah, Allah gives them increase, and those who are ungrateful to Allah, Allah takes away from them. So here Ibn al-Qayyim says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He rejected the notion that a person who believes that because I've got plenty of rizq, this is now Allah honoring me. Allah must be honoring me. And that poverty is something that Allah humiliates people with, right? This is the rich, affluent people, this is how they often think. This is found with the rich and affluent people. They think that because Allah has given me riches, this is Allah has honored me, Allah has ennobled me. And I'm not like those poor people who are in poverty. Allah has disgraced them and humiliated them. He ties Allah honoring and dishonoring, Allah raising and Allah lowering, He ties it to the issue of the rizq, the abundance of rizq. And so this, Allah is refuting that notion in these two ayat in Surah Al-Fajr. He goes on to say, فأخبر أن الإكرام والإعانة لا يدوران على المال وسعة الرزق وتقديره فإنه سبحانه يوسع على الكافر لا لكرامته ويفتر على المؤمن لا لإهانته. He says Allah refuted the notion here that he informed that honoring and belittling, they do not revolve around wealth and rizq and its restriction, or because Allah might expand the rizq for a person of disbelief, not because of his honor, and he might restrict for a believer, not because of his dishonor and lowliness, but rather the true honor. And this is where it comes to the important point now. It says, إِنَّمَا يُكْرِمُ مَنْ يُكْرِمُهُ بِمَعْرِفَتِهِ وَمَحَبَّتِهِ وَطَاعَتِهِ. So here now we've got the answer to what is the real honor. What is the real honor? So the honor is not wealth. It's not Allah answering you and giving to you. And dishonor and humiliation is not Allah withholding from you and not answering you. But what is because that's all connected to ibtila. That's ibtila. But the real honor, what is it? It is the ma'rifah of Allah, loving Allah, muhabba of Allah, and ta'atullah, the obedience to Allah. This is the true honor. So the honor meaning that if you are someone whom Allah has guided to having knowledge of Him, of His names, of His attributes, and to love Him and to worship Him and to be grateful to Him, irrespective of anything else in your life, whether it is your health, whether it is your wealth, whether it is your status, whether it is the position among the people in the society, all of that, because that is not honor or dishonor. Honor and dishonor returns back to the one to whom Allah bestows ma'rifah wa mahabba wa ta'ah. And as for the one that Allah humiliates and belittles, the true sign of belittling and humiliating, then that is he belittles him bil-i'rad anhu wa ma'siyatih. Right? The one who turns away from Allah and who disobeys Allah. So this now is the true. So basically, if you are someone, and alhamdulillah, we praise and thank Allah that Allah has guided us to Islam, to Iman, to Tawheed, to the Sunnah, to having knowledge of Allah upon the way of the Sahaba, not the Jahmiyyah, not the Mu'tazila, and that we are upon Iman, upon the way of the Quran and the Sunnah, not the way of the Murji'ah, not the way of the Khawarij, and so on and so forth. This is true honor. This is where true honor lies. This is the one whom Allah has truly honored. This is where the izzah and the honor truly lies. And so Ibn Qayyim goes on to say, therefore, the happiness of the life and the world revolves around all of this. It returns back to what? إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You alone do we worship, and from you alone do we seek help. Right? So all of this, we discussed this under the second group. Right? The second group, the first group, they combine ibadah and isti'anah. The second group have none. They do not worship Allah, nor do they seek aid from Allah. And so underneath this comes many important lessons that Ibn al-Qayyim discussed. Right? That, al-karama wal-ihana it's got nothing to do with Allah answering you or giving to you, because Allah answered Iblis's dua. Allah gives to the people of disbelief. Allah gives to those those people who are so greedy over this life they wish they could live for 1,000 years. These people, right, who embezzle people's wealth and find ways and schemes to take people's wealth in different ways, through usury, through trickery, through deception, through leeches, parasites like this, and they wish they could live for 1,000 years. Allah gives them everything. That gives them. You take all the wealth, take the wealth of the nations, take this, take that, take property, take it all. This is not honoring. This is not this is ihana. This is belittling and humiliating these people, right? Because it is ibtila. So underneath that, there's these beautiful observations that Ibn al-Qayyim has made regarding, what is honor and dishonor really tied to, and the fact that a believer, he makes isti'ana to Allah, he makes istikhara, because he does not know in what thing lies good for him. So he asks in a conditional sense, and that's the istikhara. And Often a man might tie his wealth, whatever, he thinks that Allah's honored him because of his wealth. No, that's not true. That's not true. True honor is in al-iman, in having ma'rifah of Allah. You could be the poorest person, you could be starving, poverty, you could have rags on your body, but as long as you have the knowledge of Allah and you have the ma'rifah, you have mahabba, this is Allah honoring you. Allah has honored you. Right? So this is how the believer thinks. Now the third category he goes on to mention is القسم الثالث من له نوع عبادة بلا استعانة. The third category are those who they worship